Don't normally do an intro, gonna do a real quick one, just let you know what to expect and not try to gouge you into watching something and not getting what you hope for. I'm gonna do a 3-video series on an 025, which is same as an MS250, 210, 230, same as an 021, 023, 025. What I look for when I'm doing this saw for another person. Actually, it's not this saw, it's just here for a prop right now, because like I say, I'm shooting this afterwards. I don't like doing something and not delivering. The video's already shot, gotta get it edited. I'm gonna show you what I look for when I'm getting ready to do a customer saw, or even a saw for myself, depends on what it's gonna be. And I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna do a mild build on this. Anybody with just minor tools, Dremel tool, probably could do it with a cordless drill, can do. And we're gonna put her on dyno and see what we gained. Just pop up a dyno sheet right quick, stock versus modified. We went from 2.99 horse to a little over 3.5 horse. So we got a pretty big gain with very little work, So guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry for the intro, I normally don't do that. Well, hell, sunshines. Yeah, I don't know if I'll look at this camera or that camera. This one's my main one. If it breaks down, I'll be looking at this one. Hate this camera still. So if I ain't looking at you, it's because this camera broke down. Anyway, enough of the first world problems. Oh, ain't that terrible? That's the worst. Man, I got a good life. That's all I got to worry about. I got 2 cameras, and I got to worry about my one I want to use breaking down. I ain't got much to worry about, I'm awful lucky like that. Give thanks when it's due, and I'm thankful. Anyhow, we're working on this 025, not the 026. We're working on this 025 clamshell, and we've got a couple previous videos of this on looking at it, turning it down, timing it. I'll put them all in a playlist. If there's one after this, I'll put it in a playlist too. I hope to do all this today and get it run. It'll be today for you guys. Hopefully get all this done, get it run and dynoed and a test cut and make a video out of it. But I want to show you a couple things here first. We'll try to do it quick, because like I said, I want to fit a lot into this video. And I do kind of like doing chainsaws been run, or examining chainsaws been run. You can see, hopefully, and I can, well, maybe I can. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I can feel what I'm looking at. You can see, hopefully, up in that transfers. I'm gonna move it around just a little bit. You can see basically any of the shiny silvery parts here where the air fuel mixture has kind of, for lack of a better term, eroded it, and that may be the perfect term, but it's kind of eroded, it's made clean spots there, kind of like a wash pattern, if you will. And there's a lip there, but you can see, like going into this transfer here, that there's a line around where that's hitting, right? And like no fuel's getting through right here. It's all right here, and same thing with the other side. Let me get this, I want to put this piston back in here and cylinder, and I want to show you something here. Make sure I got it in there right. Yep, that's how it'll be sitting in the saw. And it's gonna rotate over the top for me. It's gonna rotate counterclockwise on this side, right? All right, now, this is easier to see than a proper saw that's not a clamshell. It's easy to see on this one. I'm gonna stick my, just using a piece of old, what you call it in there, zip tie. Okay, so we're rotating over the top this way, and we've drew in from the intake right here, right? And it's just closing my intake right here, okay? Now, whatever charge we got is contained in the area under the piston, in this area right here. It's void right here, right? It's voided right here. So we got a big area right here where we're doing it. Between these lobes, we're holding air, and under the piston, air fuel mix, right? Well, we want this air fuel mix to come in the exhaust side. That'd be best. And take and make a loop and come out of the transfers at the intake port, right? That's what we're after. That way it scoops around and blows out and pushes the exhaust out the exhaust port, right? Or it gets sucked out, whichever the case may be. So we just started making, we're coming around, we're drawing in intake. This leading edge of this flat face right here is going over the top, right? Well, about right there is where it stops. So you can see we're almost perpendicular. You can see the edge of the transfers, the casting here. So our leading edge of that coming this way is shoving that air actually away from them transfers or scooping it into it, but there's no ports on the piston on this one. So that's pushing our air fuel mix this away. Now the only way it can get into this bottom case is up through them lobes, and there's plenty of space for that, right? So the next thing it's gonna have to do is it's gonna have to rotate around. It's gonna have to rotate around to before the transfers are ever open. Let's see if we can get in there and show you where the transfers will open, and we're about there. Okay. Right there is where the transfers open. Now, the lobes on this are, oh, I just hit it. Didn't hold pressure on it. The lobes, you can see they're about perpendicular. The lobes now are blocking the lower part of this transfer, right? And we're just getting open here for air to flow down either in between here or around the end of that crank, because we had a pocket of air up here, remember? We had this pocket of air back here. Now it's got to get up in those transfers. Well, we got two things working against us. Transfers are just open. Right here's where they open. They're closed. We'll call them closed right there, and now they're open. So right now, air's starting to come in. The piston just cleared the transfers. Right here, we'll say right here, the piston just cleared the transfers. We got almost no room here for air to get, and I can't do much about that. We still need a sealing surface, don't we? But I do work on that some, okay? And as that comes up a couple more degrees, it starts opening that, which is good. And we start getting us a void down in here where that air can start to get to them transfers. But while we're still feeding the transfers and not quite to top dead center yet, you can see the bottom of that lobe's coming up and acting against that. It's wanting to shove the air back the other way, isn't it? So basically the only thing we're getting in there is in between these lobes and the side. Now, if you can look down in here, I'm gonna pull this piston out. We're at top dead center. Look how much room is not between the lobes and the piston for that air to get into them transfers. And you can see she just barely is able to run a ring of air right around here. You guys see that? I hope you can see that. It's able to run a ring of air right through there all the way around. So that, guys, is kind of what we're working against, working with, and an understanding of, yeah, it'd be nice if the crankshaft rotated the other way, wouldn't it? It'd make a better scoop. But yeah, Archer 82, he's done some good work to those. He's done a lot of work on these lobes to help, not necessarily promote air, and maybe promote air, but restrict it less. Gives it a better chance to get in there. And then we talked about it, and I kind of didn't like his idea, or didn't like parts of it. At least we'll say I didn't like losing that mass in the rotating assembly. But I hadn't really sat there and studied it as hard as he had either. So guys, never be afraid to cut yourself off a big old piece of that humble pie and just mash that down your neck right quick. That humble pie is good for you. It tastes great, fills you up, lasts a long time, makes you remember stuff too. I'm not going to do that on this one. But I was sitting there, and I won't say I was argumentative with him, but I was argumentative with him a little. We're bantering around opposite ideas, which opposite ideas are good too to promote thought. If you're not so hard-headed, you can at least try to see where the other guy's coming from. I didn't wrap my head around it. This is the next 025 basically I done after that, or 029. They're all basically the same. And I'm seeing what he's talking about. Now, the porting I do on these alleviates part of that problem. So, there's how she was. Hopefully we get a good view of her. And I'm not going to worry you guys with grinding. I just want to do you this short. And hopefully one or the other of these videos worked. I'll bring you back when I got something done. Now, that one side, and of course now it's still rougher than the cob. I'll smooth it out some. But I just wanted to show you the contrast in between the side I haven't touched and the side that I've chewed around on with my hatchet and a mad muskrat. Now, bear in mind, this here's your bearing support down in here, so you don't want to undercut that too much, and you kind of at least want to triangulate that pretty good in my opinion. I just cut me some air grooves down through there, and they're not the same. You'll notice this side here is bigger than that side. That's because I'm left-handed and I want that side of the saw to pull just a little bit harder up. Way I'll get a straight cut. So you can tailor this to whoever's sawing for you there. Okay, we got this out of the cooker. There's what I did to the intake. I dimpled it. I didn't mess with the timing at all. I didn't widen it. I didn't reshape it. I didn't do nothing to the intake except for put the dimples in the top. On the exhaust, you can probably still see the carbon. I didn't widen it. I didn't change the shape. I didn't change the timing on it either. I just got rid of the carbon and then slicked it up a little bit with a little sanding deal there. What we did do is, if this was on a proper saw, we'd call it trenching the case. But I made it basically so that air could get up into those lower part of those transfers. Now on this bottom cap right here, I took just a little bit off, about 10,000ths all it took. Guys, what we got to try to remember, or what I want to try to remember is, I'm not trying to figure out why this thing don't run. I don't need to go great big on stuff. If it didn't run and I was building this motor from scratch, I might say, well, heck, there ain't enough room in there, so I'm gonna have to gouge that out because it didn't run. Well, we're not dealing with stuff that don't run. The engineer's already got this thing running. We just want to make it running a little bit better. It don't take much. Guys, I didn't take, well, where I trenched, you can see I took a bunch. I didn't take but 10-15,000ths out of here. Basically, there's a little groove that runs down through there that's the width of this, and I just widened that out to the depth of that groove. And that groove isn't deep, guys. I don't go hogging at her terrible, and it's smooth, but it's rough, meaning this, I can feel all kinds of imperfections in there, so that's going to keep us running good. I did hit it with a sanding disc again, just because I don't like the fact that there might be a piece of loose, you know, when you're pulling stuff up with a disc, there might be a piece that's just hanging on there like the old Florida votes there many years ago, the old hanging chad. I don't want hanging chads in there, guys. So I hit them with a sander and knocked that off. And then I run it through the old pressure cooker here about twice till she's nice and tender. Piston crank, ain't doing nothing to it. That's double negative, ain't it? I'm not doing anything to it, except for I'm putting new seals on it, which brings me to, and I see a lot of people, and I like it. That give me the idea too. Just that was off piece of packing off something that was shrink wrapped. And a lot of people will take and wrap that around there and put that seal down over it. I'm gonna show you a different way it works good for me. I roll that up, actually into a funnel. I don't even necessarily trying to get it right. I roll that up into a funnel and throw that up over my seal, right? And that holds that for me. I don't fight this near so hard, I was gonna say as some people, but they don't seem to fight it either. They have, shut up, Bubba. I can hold that seal on there and just shove her up on there. I don't even have to. If I put this inside the seal first, we got her right on there, and it would have prolapsed right where this little ring goes. That seal would have prolapsed on that groove right there. So that's what you need to do to feed that down over. But like I say, what I like doing is I actually put this inside my seal. Well, you've seen it. I'll quit jabbering. Bring you back when I got something else done. Of course, remember we marked them top and bottom, so we've got that part whipped so far. Better put on my spectacular so I can see. Not doing too bad today on the seeing, but you ever put one of these rings on there upside down because you don't have your glasses on and the little deal for the locating pins on the wrong side? They won't hardly compress. And speaking of compress, I want to show you one other thing right here. If you're doing these clamshells, it's quite important. And it don't matter if it's single or double transfer. Matter of fact, I think the double transfers may be harder because I always take that divider out down a ways. Guys, but you don't need a ring compressor is what I want to tell you to put these rings in when they're stock. And I think that might be part of the reason that these cases are made, or this saw is made how it is and not relieved any more than that, because you can just take this piston and shove her down in there. It's got just a little bit of a taper and it just does that ring. So what I want to do is I always take a different sanding deal. It's not here, but just a little bitty flapper wheel. I don't know, it's 10 millimeter flapper wheel, I think. I'll take that sander and I'll make sure that's just as slick as frozen snot on a gold tooth right there. I don't want any problem getting that ring down in there. And if there's a little bit of, if you can scratch your finger over it, it'll catch the edge of that ring, and if you shove her too hard, it'll break it. I've had to work them in with a pick a little bit and get them over stuff, but the smoother you got that, the better off she'll go. We'll put just a little bit of oil on this, just get them rings started. Now I can start them rings down on here. I can start them rings down in here now without worrying about putting my sealer on there. I've got room for that. And I keep 2-stroke oil in a little squirt can here. Maybe better ways, but that's my way. Like I say, I can get this all down in here. Intake side, make sure my locating pins are however they are. But there's room to get my sealer down on here. Gotta hold my mouth just right. But there'll be room for me to clean this sealing surface up with brake clean. See, now I've got a lip coming out of there. I wasn't just copacetic here, I don't guess. Like I say, sometimes I gotta work them rings up in there, and I think that's probably part of the reason the old factory don't get too wild there on grinding on them, because it sure makes these harder to put together. We had to get her mouth held just right, and if you push on them too hard, guys, you'll break that ring. That's gonna fit down in there just fine. Oh yeah, love it long time. Now I'll just take my rag and clean any oil off this surface with brake cleaner, and I'll bring you guys back. Get them wires tucked up in there just nice where they go. Put that ground back on there. Now whenever I do these, just to make myself, I always loosen this coil up and shove it all the way back. The mainest reason for that is this saw is bolted to the case, and so is this, but there's just a little bit of leeway in there, right? You can pull that engine back. you can pull that engine out and put it back in there, and it may be a few thousandths off. So like a proper saw, like my 026 that's got a bottom, I can pull the top end off. If I don't take flywheel off, I can take top end off. I never have to reset the coil on that because it's not moving in relationship to each other. Conversely, when you put this engine back in there, it is not gonna go back to the same spot every time. There's a little bit of leeway in there. So I always make myself reset the timing on these every time. When I'm doing it, I just push the flywheel back. And that helps these old Stihls run better doing it anyhow. Because if you're doing it factory, if you're relying on the factory, I mean, there's just problems with that. But the reason when I redo them and they work better, I'd take a brand new one and set the timing on it. Because I use a Husqvarna gauge, and that makes these Stihls run so much better. And pay attention to stuff as you're putting them back together. This exhaust is cracked from here to there, from there to there. It's cracking out of that hole about that far out. And this just bent up. Well, that's crooked as a politician right there. I just happen to have another exhaust. It's pretty good shape. So we're gonna use it. It's not cracked out anywhere. So yeah, this old saw is kind of getting to works here. And I don't know what I'm gonna do on this here yet. I don't happen to have a spare heat shield, and this cracked through too. Well, there you go. So I'll probably just run it without the heat shield and see if she don't get too hot. If it is, I might have to order a heat shield because I just don't have one. Okay, got her back together. We're gonna do a test run on it here right quick, or just start it up, let it warm up, tighten the muffler up again, things like that. When it warms up, do a couple warm-ups. Not gonna make you guys, ask you guys, whatever, to sit through all that. I'm just gonna start it up right quick. Then I'm gonna bar it up. I'll bring it out, we'll do a test cut with it. We'll compare that against the old test cut before I started on it, and we'll put her on dyno and we'll compare it and see if we gained anything. May not even start. Hey, third pull from being apart, that ain't bad. May need some carburetor. Boiler's working. Okay, we'll get her barred up, put in the wood. And man, I love them little ratchets. Got a little 1/4 inch drive on one end, that on the other. You can just take your tools, whatever you're using on your 1/4 inch gun. Nice little handy ratchet. I ain't advertising for nobody. If anybody wants to know, I can tell you where you can get them. But man, them's handy for chainsaw work, because I use a driver a lot, but I pretty well just run her in until she clicks once, or almost click, whatever I think, and then I tighten her up by hand, everything. Let's get her in the wood. All right. All right, it's starting to sprinkle. I should have knew it. I cut hay yesterday. Let's do this test cut. Kevin's 025 light port work. Well, I'm pleasantly surprised at the dyno, what we did. Now, we went from 2.99 horsepower stock. My blue's always my previous iteration, the red's current. We went from 2.99 at 10,226 RPMs, 1.9 foot-pounds of torque at 7,007 RPMs. We made it up to 3.53 horsepower at 9,926 RPMs, 2.27 foot-pounds of torque at 5,250. Now, I don't mind that I lost a little bit of speed here. I lost 300 RPMs in the cut at max horsepower, okay? But, so you'd think, well, you lost some. Well, not necessarily. From 11.5 on, I was so much ahead of it that, yeah, I lost a little bit of RPM in the cut at 3.53, but that was only after up here around right at free rev. So when you start getting into it, we only lost 300 RPMs at peak torque, but we gained torque from 11.5, or we gained horsepower and torque from 11.5 all the way down to where she just dies out. So guys, that was a pretty cheap gain. Gained a half a horse, gained a 0.54 horsepower by just messing with the lowers, a little bit trenching that, and the baffle, of course, was out of the muffler. That's essentially all we did, and opened up the little fins in front. Didn't even put a pipe on it, just opened up the little fins in front with a screwdriver, opened them gills up a little bit. So guys, that's something that's well worth it. It'll turn that saw into a different saw. You can absolutely feel it in your hands.